Okay, it is Monday, April 6th at 7:35. Welcome to Cleveland Heights City Council meeting. Addie, would you please call the roll?
DeWitt Foy.
Here.
Stone. Posh.
Here.
Kuda.
Here.
Cohen.
Here.
Larson.
Here.
Taub.
Here.
All right, everybody's here. Amendments to the agenda?
Mr. President?
See my voice went up?
Yeah. I move that we amend the agenda to include Resolution 076-2026 appointing Timothy Gorham to the Parks and Rec Advisory Board and Resolution 77-2026 appointing 13 members to the Cumberland Pool Task Force.
Second.
All right, any discussion? All in favor of the amendment, say aye.
Aye.
All right, very good. Oh, I'm sorry, any opposed? That motion passes. Approval of the minutes, we have February 17th, March 3rd, March 16th, and March 26th. Any questions, comments about those minutes? All right. Next, we have a presentation from the...
Council President, for the record, can you please say that those were approved, those minutes?
Oh, the minutes are approved. Thank you. Next, we have a presentation from the Northeastern Ohio Sewer District, and Matt Sharver is here. Thank you, Matt, for addressing us.
Hi, good evening, Council President Kuda, members of the council. I'm Matt Sharver. I'm the Director of Watershed Programs at the Northeast Ohio Regional Sewer District. This evening, we just want to provide two updates to council regarding the project at Shaker Lakes. And we'll first start with the Lower Lake Dam maintenance work that we're going to be conducting soon. And so just to clarify, tonight I'm going to be talking about two entirely separate projects. So first we'll cover the Lower Lake Dam Maintenance Project, and you can see here in the outline of the watershed where Lower Shaker Lake is located, and we'll cover that project first. Just as a reminder to council, you know, cities are well aware of this, that Lower Shaker Lake is an Ohio Department of Natural Resources, Division of Water Resources, dam safety program, identified, classified, Class 1 high hazard dam. And what that means is if that dam were to catastrophically fail, there could be a possible loss of life or significant property damage downstream. So that's why the Ohio Department of Natural Resources has classified that dam as a Class 1 high hazard dam. That dam is currently out of compliance with the state's statutes and requirements. And that Lower Lake Dam has been out of compliance for some time. First identified in 1979 as having compliance issues, and then the state performs routine inspections about on a 5-year frequency, and those subsequent inspections have also identified compliance issues with Lower Lake Dam. So, and I think you may recall the November 18th, 2025 presentation when Ohio Department of Natural Resources provided a presentation to council saying such things. So tonight we're just going to focus on one issue with the Lower Lake Dam, and that's the shoreline protection on the down or upstream side of the dam facing the lake. So you can see here in the graphic or the picture to the left, the post maintenance that the district performed back in 2020 where we placed rock along the shoreline to protect the earthen embankment, which is made of soil, from wave erosion, wave action erosion. The picture to the right shows the current condition in the fall of last year in 2025 where that stone material is no longer there, and you can see the exposed soil areas of that earthen embankment. So this is a compliance issue that ODNR would like to have addressed. Our stormwater inspection and maintenance teams identified this last year, and we'd like to mobilize to correct this deficiency. And then here's the picture, another area closer to the spillway. In total, it's about 226 feet of rock area. It will take about 100 tons of riprap rock material to replace the now non-existent riprap material. And it will probably take approximately around a week to conduct this operation. This is a picture of what the stone material looks like. This is typical riprap stone material. Type B on the left side of the photograph there shows the size of that riprap. And then it'll be interspersed with type C limestone riprap. And then the infill area or the nooks and crannies of this angular material will be backfilled with a smaller material here on the far right. And so that work is yet to be performed, but we wanted to bring that to council's attention, that our intention is to move forward with that here at some point towards the end of April, and that we have already received a nationwide permit number 3 from the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers back in 2018 when we initially performed some of this work. That provides us coverage for this work. One of the general conditions of that permit from the Army Corps of Engineers is to maintain the maintenance that you've already completed. We've been through the Section 106 State Historic Preservation aspect of that permit to verify that there are no adverse effects to that historic resource, and that was concurred by the State Historic Preservation Office in coordination with the Army Corps of Engineers. So that nationwide permit 3 provides us the coverage that we need to replace this riprap. And just the last note on the Lower Shaker Lake area itself, the engagement continues as the cities move forward with their due diligence on what may become a larger project, but this is solely just a maintenance project.
Mr. President,
Yes.
there's no expiration date on that permit from the U.S. Department of Engineering?
There is not in terms of the general conditions. So once you're issued a nationwide permit, those general conditions that are part of that permit carry forward. As long as that practice is in place, you're obligated as the recipient of that nationwide permit to maintain and maintain those conditions or maintain that infrastructure that you put in place.
Thank you.
So moving on to the other project that we wanted to cover tonight, which is a separate project from Lower Lake. This is the Dome Brook restoration at Horseshoe Park. Again, here's the location of the Dome Brook restoration project at the former Horseshoe Dam. Again, reminding council that Ohio Department of Natural Resources, Division of Water Resources, Dam Safety Program has also classified this Horseshoe Lake Dam as a Class 1 high hazard dam for the same reasons that Lower Lake Dam is classified. Horseshoe Lake Dam is also out of compliance and is in a state of failure mode and is deteriorating as we move forward. So as you're aware, both Cleveland Heights City Council and Shaker Heights City Councils have entered into a construction agreement as subsequent to the design agreement that we had between our entities to construct the Dome Brook restoration at Horseshoe Park project, which you see here. This is the partial removal of the Horseshoe Lake Dam, the remeandering of the north branch and the middle branches of Dome Brook, confluencing where the dam used to be, and then flowing into the mainstream as you move from the dam downstream to Lee Road. And you can see all the public amenities that the cities brought forth as part of the public engagement process. I'll note that this project went through several design iterations, 30%, 60%, 90%, 100% design process where we came before the city's boards and commissions to gain approvals and concurrence on the project. So specifically tonight, where we're at in terms of the permitting process, we have not started construction at this project. Again, we will not start construction until we've obtained all the required federal, state, and local permits. So right now, you may be aware that the memorandum of agreement has been issued for signature. So that was issued to all consulting parties. I'm aware that both Cleveland Heights and Shaker Heights have signed that memorandum of agreement. That memorandum of agreement came signed from the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers. The Sewer District has signed that agreement, and I believe the State Historic Preservation is the last required signature on that, which that due date is on April 8th, later this week. Once that memorandum of agreement is signed by the Army Corps, which it already is, State Historic Preservation Office, which will soon be, and the Sewer District, which already has, the Army Corps of Engineers will issue their provisional nationwide permit 27 to conduct the stream restoration project. With that permit, we will then proceed with one additional permit with the state of Ohio EPA in terms of getting our 401 water quality certification that goes in tandem with the Section 404 nationwide permit. So once those permits are in place, we intend to move forward with moving this project out to bid and to move into construction later this fall into early winter. And so I just wanted to provide a few pieces on the tree removal and replacement within the project area. The sewer district had surveyed 3,000 trees within the project area. That is not all the trees within the 60-acre piece of this Parklands, Shaker Parklands. There's several thousand more trees that are within the project area and the overarching 60-acre area. We were very deliberate in our design process to minimize the impacts to trees. And because of the constraints of the project in terms of the partial dam removal, the necessity to recontour and relocate the 180,000 cubic yards of sediment throughout the site, and also to relocate the downstream portion of Dome Brook from its current channel to a more favorable, stable, historic channel required tree removal. And so those are the main reasons for the tree removal. There are 1,065 trees that are currently identified for removal. That's down from where we were at the 100% design, where we're at 1,098 trees. Of those trees, 158 of them are already standing dead timber. And then 344 of that 1,065 trees are smaller than a 10-inch diameter, so they're smaller trees. We recognize that 563 trees are greater than 10-inch diameter breast height. Diameter breast height is a measurement about 4.5 feet off the ground. So certainly the 563 trees are part of the mid-story and the overstory canopy of the parklands. Unfortunately, because of the heavy earthwork that has to be conducted to relocate that 180,000 cubic yards of sediment, remove portions of the Horseshoe Lake Dam, and keep in mind that the rim of the lake currently has a band of trees around it. As we recontour that sediment into the existing landscape, that rim of trees will also need to be removed. To counter that, the design plans have 1,106 trees to be replanted. We recognize that those are saplings and of smaller stature, but we are committed to their establishment. So in perpetuity, the district will maintain and operate about 25 to 26 acres of this reforested stream corridor and floodplain area. In addition to the trees themselves, there's over almost 14,000 shrubs and live stakes that will be planted. So we as the district have done many stream restorations throughout the service area. We recognize that trees and shrub, their woody root systems are vital to maintaining stream banks. So we have no intentions of unintentionally taking any unnecessary trees because they are our allies in stabilizing this area. So we intend to minimize that as great as possible and then replant these native species going forward. So that's just a summary there. You can find much more information on our website at www.nersd.org/DONE. Both the Horseshoe Lake Restoration and Horseshoe Lake project are located there, as well as the local lake. Our current frequently asked questions, our updated permitting information, and all our archived public meetings, public presentations to all councils that we provided are on that website. Happy to take any questions from council.
All right. Thank you, Matt. Any questions from council? Go ahead.
We've been getting a lot of emails from many very, very concerned residents, and there's a lot of folk that are surprised about what they're finding. You know, a lot of this work happened before I was on council, but I'm a citizen in Cleveland Heights, and I was aware of it. There was a lot of public meetings and a lot of public process, and there's concern about that. If residents were able to go to that site, do you have a detailed list of the public engagement process? Just so folks can see for themselves, you know, the public meetings, all the sessions that you guys had and so forth?
Councilman, yes, that website does have all that information archived and available. So each presentation that we provided, all the public touch points, all the forums that we've held at the different libraries between the two cities is on that website.
Other questions? Oh, yeah, please.
I know this wasn't the focus of tonight, but do you have a upcoming touch point on the Lower Shaker project, whether that's a design milestone or just another public engagement session?
We don't have a scheduled touch point at this point. We're assisting, providing documentation information to both Shaker Heights and Cleveland Heights of our pre-design effort on the Lower Lake dam replacement information that we provided and our recommendation to restore the brook. So we're providing that information to allow the cities to do their due diligence. We're happy to, once the cities get to a point of future engagement, we're happy to coordinate and provide that engagement.
Great, thanks.
All right, Mr. Sharver, thank you very much. Appreciate you being willing to hang around too. Thank you. We're going to move on to the mayor's communications from the mayor.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd like to begin by reading into the record that on March 17, 2026, 5 bids were received for the 2026 road repavement program. The lowest bid was from Carvo Companies for $3,360,365, and the rest of the bids are as follows. 1, Roniak Paving, $3,498,807, $3,498,871. Geauga Highway, $3,589,656, and Perk Company, $3,780,754.14, and Barbiak Paving, $3,854,454. As a lot of folks know, I'm grateful that council more than doubled the resurfacing budget for this year from $2.4 million to $5.1 million. We intended to also do Lee Road. There are a lot of stretches of that road that are in really bad shape. Fortunately, we learned that the gas company will not be done with its work until next year, so we don't want to repave it, then have to rip that up. So we are in the process of identifying a few more streets, and that will be coming back to council. Regarding potholes, I don't need to tell people that it's a real issue right now. There's a massive backlog. Traditionally, we'd have just one crew filling potholes. This year, we actually have 2 who are working full-time, and they're going to continue through the summer. That being said, we're trying to evaluate how we can accelerate that. So we're exploring several options, including adding weekend shifts for employees who would be interested in earning extra money and potentially hiring an outside company to help us get caught up. On the topic of immigrant rights, I want to say that I'm proud to live in a city where people care so deeply about their immigrant neighbors. I'd like to thank Cleveland Heights for Immigrant Rights for its advocacy, Jessica Cohen for the work that she did to try to offer legal clinics, and for City Council's willingness to pass legislation opposing harmful bills coming through the State House. But if you're a person in need of legal assistance, there are a lot of resources available. And so I encourage you to go to the city's website. At the top of the homepage, there is a link to a page where we have a bunch of resources. I encourage you to go there so that you can find contact info for legal aid, for Catholic Charities, for me. These are all great groups that are doing really good work in our community. On the topic of Shaker Lakes, thank you, Mr. Sharver, for coming. Appreciate it. I see all of the emails that come in. I hear the love that so many people have for our Shaker Lakes. I'd just like to reiterate that while 1,000 trees would be removed. The proposal is that 1,100 would be planted. Mr. Sharver mentioned that there are about 7,000 shrubs and some other things. In total, there would be over 50,000 additional native plants planted in addition to those 1,100 trees. And again, to reiterate, the sewer district would be responsible for maintaining many of these trees in perpetuity. So if after 2 years one dies, they're responsible for coming back and replanting that so that it's successful. But while that project is moving forward later this year, I pledged to the community whenever I ran that I would do everything that I can to get the best possible outcome regarding Lower Lake. no decisions have been made regarding Lower Lake. And so that is exactly what we're doing right now. I feel that we have hired the best possible lawyer to assist us with that as we continue to evaluate all options. And we look forward to sharing with everyone opportunities for upcoming engagement so that we can hear more about your thoughts on the topic. Again, while Horseshoe, that is a project that is years in the making. Those decisions were made before I assumed office. No decisions have been made regarding Lower Lake, and we look forward to hearing more from folks about this. Finally, I'd like to talk about our city's finances. So I shared with City Council maybe about 2 weeks ago that we would be adding additional review for hiring new team members and purchasing vehicles. We've had a lot of unbudgeted and unexpected expenses come to light, and the county was actually in a situation where last year they were so far over budget that they had to make very painful cuts for this year. And so I want to do everything that we can early in the year to avoid that sort of scenario. And so we're doing our best to manage those things. But I'd like to also note that the city's finances are my highest priority, and we are discovering and addressing a lot of issues. So, for example, we have been paying hundreds of thousands of dollars a year for health insurance premiums for people who are no longer employees of the city. In one case, there was someone who passed away in 2023, and we've been paying premiums for them for almost 3 years. And so I am grateful for the leadership from our new finance director, Joe Brzezinski, and our assistant finance director, Rashawn Codwell. They are working very hard to identify and address a lot of these issues, but it's going to take time. But I felt that it would be important to share with you, especially in light of articles in the media about how we're trying to manage our finances responsibly. So with that, I am done with this evening's report.
Mayor, and I want you to know how much we appreciate all the hard work you're putting in. And next we have a proclamation. Actually, Mayor, you're back up. Believe it or not, the Cedar Lee Theater is 100 years old this year. It doesn't look a day over 90 to me, but it's. We have a proclamation here. So, Mayor, I'll just have you go ahead and.
From the theater with us this evening.
There we go. Good.
Hi, my name's Sean Denny. I'm the Director of Operations for Cleveland Cinemas. I have been with the company for 25 years. I am here, John Foreman's stead, because the only thing he would have missed this for is his grandkids, and that's what he is.
Oh.
So, we just wanted to say that we're very honored to see you. We're also beyond thrilled that starting this week, we are bringing back Cleveland International Film Festival to the original.
Yes.
It was originally there for the first 17 years of the festival, and then it just outgrew what was at that time a 2-screen theater. Now we have 6. Thank you.
So with that, whereas the Cedar Lee Theater has stood as a cherished cultural landmark and gathering place in our community for 100 years, enriching generations through the shared experience of film, art, and storytelling. And whereas since its founding, the Cedar Lee Theater has played a vital role in fostering appreciation for cinema, supporting independent filmmakers, and bringing diverse voices and perspectives to audiences. And whereas the theater's enduring legacy is due in no small part to the dedicated stewards such as operator John Foreman, whose vision and commitment have ensured its continued relevance and vitality. And whereas in 1976, John Foreman was personally responsible for bringing the Cleveland International Film Festival to the Cedar Lee Theater, making it the very first venue to host this now renowned cultural event. And whereas the Cleveland International Film Festival has grown into a celebrated institution, marking its 50th anniversary from April 9th through April 15th, and returning once again to the Cedar Lee Theater, honoring both its origins and its enduring partnership with this historic venue. And whereas the Cedar Lee Theater remains a beacon for film lovers, a cornerstone for the local arts community, and testament to the power of cinema to inspire, educate, and unite. Now, therefore, be it proclaimed that we proudly recognize and celebrate the 100th anniversary of the Cedar Lee Theater, and we extend our deepest gratitude to all those past and present who have contributed to this remarkable history and continued success. Be it further proclaimed that we commend John Foreman for his lasting contributions to the arts and for his pivotal role in establishing a legacy that continues to benefit our community today. In witness thereof, this proclamation is hereby issued in honor of this historic milestone with sincere appreciation for a century of cinematic excellence.
Thank you. All right, next we have the
Mr.
city
President,
administrator's
Mr. President,
report.
I believe we also have a short clip from the Cleveland International Film Festival to play with us.
Okay.
The Cedar Lee Theater is the end-all be-all of art house cinema in Cleveland. If it's an art house film, it will play at the Cedar Lee.
The iconic Cedar Lee. This has stood the test of time. This is probably as Cleveland a business as it gets.
Been coming to this theater for over 50 years, and it looks as good as it did the day I first stepped into it. The Cedar Lee is the only place to come to see movies.
Wow. That was short. All right, thank you, Eddie. Michael Reese, our city administrator, is going to give a report now.
All right, thank you, President Kuda, Vice President Larson, council members. My report tonight, as I've said before, continue to meet individually with council members, attend council committee meetings, and participate in meetings with council leadership and the mayor. Some things in the community. The mayor and I met with Keisha Allen with the Home Repair Resource Center to learn more about their programs. We went on a housing tour with Reggie Evans, a Cleveland Heights resident, and the housing inspector with Shaker Heights. I met with Deidre McPherson about the arts and how we can work together. We had a meeting with Youth Opportunities Unlimited on their internship program. Several of our departments will be bringing on interns in June of this year to take advantage of that. The mayor and several other city representatives, including council members, we all attended the Coventry Village CID General Meeting. I also attended a meeting with the mayor and representatives from each special improvement district to see how we can work on improving collaboration between the city and each CID. We are going to meet every 2 months going forward. We partnered with Carolyn Barney of the Cedar Lee Special Improvement District and several of our city departments to prepare for the Cleveland International Film Festival. This included new signage, litter cleanup, attending to our city-owned lots, public safety issues, street sweeping, and much more. I really want to thank our departments for stepping up and answering the call there. I worked with council members in the law department on the automated license plate reader technology resolution. Working with the mayor and team members on planning for several city events, including Pride, Juneteenth, and a parade for Layla Edwards, among other celebrations. We had several trash and bulk pickup operational issues over the last couple of weeks, so I worked with the Public Works Department on those. I know facilities and elevators and things are something that the council is interested in. I have 3 updates. First of all, I coordinated with our Parks and Recreation and Finance departments to execute an emergency requisition for the Community Center elevator, which needs a new motor. We replaced the starter, but it was not igniting the motor. So as soon as the new motor comes in, we'll be able to get the elevator up and running. We already have 1 elevator. It's a little bit out of the way that can take people to the 2nd floor, but we really need to get this, and we're making it a priority to get it going. Also, another thing you may not be aware of, but late last week, the Director Gonzalez, and I and others observed several areas that were leaking from the community center roof due to all of the rain we received. So we had a roof contractor on site last Friday. Minor roof repairs are being done, but the roof's not really the issue. We have a failing gutter system and clogged drains. So we'll be unclogging those drains and examining the gutter system for short-term repairs tomorrow. We can absorb that within our existing budget, but it's likely going to need a new gutter system in 2027, and we'll plan on budgeting for that. On the Coventry parking garage elevator, an update. The contractor will be on site in 2 weeks for a complete replacement. This is using ARPA funds. We expect that to take them about, once they're on site in 2 weeks, to take them about 3 weeks to perform the work. So that's the update there. 3 other items here. I know also folks have asked about our properties operation and the new supervisor. That individual is expected to start on Monday, April 27th. So we're excited to welcome that person. To best, as the mayor indicated, to best align our team and resources, we are implementing Mayor Petrus's additional review process for all new hires and vehicle purchases. That was initiated by the mayor on March 24th. And finally, I plan to provide a written report in August of 2026 to the mayor and council concerning the administration of all departments, divisions, boards, and commissions of the city and their needs and requirements for the future, as part of the charter requirement that the city administrator submit a report on a semi-annual basis. So thank you for your time. That concludes my report this evening.
Thank you, Mr. Reese. Let me say a plug for YOU. As a 3-time Big Brother, they folded that program into YOU. And I can tell you from the 3 times that I've been involved, they need men. Okay, every time I would show up for a new little, if that's what we call them, it would be like 10 women for every dude. You know, we need dudes really badly. So YOU is a great organization, and I hope any of you listening would consider volunteering there. It's very rewarding. Next departmental report, we have Jamie Taylor, who I know as in your former role, but now you're going to be speaking as events coordinator about summer events. So take it away, Jamie.
All right, good evening, City Council, Mayor Petrus, and all my Cleveland Heights family and friends. My name is Jamie Taylor. I'm the new Special Events Coordinator. I was formerly the Supervisor of the Office on Aging, and I just wanted to give an update on some of our summer events that we've been planning. I know there's been talk, and so we're really excited about sharing some of the dates and things that we have going on. Our director always talks about us being responsible for the fun and being able to create memorable moments for our community. Special events that are inclusive, fun, educational, spaces for us to fellowship and continue to build our awesomely unique community and celebrate our city and set the standard for the future so we can spread the word and come out and engage with all of Cleveland Heights. So we have these awesome events coming up this summer. The first being Monday, May 25th, our Memorial Day celebration will be at Cumberland Memorial to say true to our tradition. And we're just working with local organizations to find out if there's any more information that we can pull into this event to make it even more memorable than it's been. And then Sunday, June 14th, we have Juneteenth. And we haven't completed all the details as far as timing is concerned, but again, we're working with organizations and some stakeholders to make sure that we create the best experience that we can for our city. And then Saturday, June 27th is Pride in the Park. And we're just really excited about these new events, well, not these new events, but these dates, and also including some new events, but staying true to our traditional one. Thank you. Also, I just wanted to say we just had our spring egg hunt, and that was a huge success. We did some new things that we haven't done in the past, and we've gotten a lot of great feedback from that. So I wanted to share that, and as we move forward, that's what we're looking to do.
That's great, Jamie. Any questions for Jamie? Yes. Oh, please.
Thanks for that report. Are we planning on having a community day event at the community center where we have the fire department, the police department, and the service trucks?
Yes, so that our Fall Fest, we are planning to be in like early October. And that will include our Touch a Truck and just kind of bringing all of our community out to celebrate each other.
Thank you.
Do you have a time for the Memorial Day event yet?
I do not have a time for that, I'm sorry.
Thank you.
Is it going to be at the same place we always do?
Yes, it'll be at the same place. So we are, at this moment, I'm just gathering all the information from our past events and making sure that we stay true to our foundation. And then, thinking about ways that we can add and celebrate our, our veterans in our city.
Very good. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All righty, good to see you.
You too.
All right, next we're going to move on to public comments for legislative items only.
Council President, I actually do have a report to give.
Oh, did I miss you?
Skipped right over me. I would just like to let council know that I received a notice to legislative authority for a new D5 liquor permit for Perfect For You located at 3640 Mayfield Road. This matter has been referred to the mayor and chief of police.
All right, thank you, Madam Clerk. Okay, now we'll have public comment for legislative items only. By the way, we're really glad you're here. I know probably some of you think we dread these big crowds, but I'm always pleased to see how many involved residents we have, and we appreciate you coming. We are going to have to, because of the large number, limit it to 2 minutes. And if you hear somebody say the exact same thing that you're about to say, if you could condense it into 1 minute, we'd appreciate it. We have a lot of legislative business to take care of. Make sure when you come up, you say your name and what street you live on and what city, if so we know it's Cleveland Heights or somewhere else. And I'm going to be pretty strict about the time limit because, again, we do have a lot of business to take care of tonight. Addie, how many of the legislative items do we have here?
We only have 2.
Okay, just 2. All right.
Sarah Wood.
Sarah Wood. There she comes.
Sarah Wood.
She's coming.
There you go.
I live on Wood. My name's Sarah. Hey, how's it going? I'm Sarah.
Yeah, all right.
I'm here to talk about Flock.
Your street and city?
I live in Cleveland Heights. I live on Wood Road. I'm here to talk about Flock. I'm just going to dive in because 2 minutes is not very long at all. So I'm just going to list off things that are happening with Flock. Are we aware that Flock has been hacked a lot by things as simple as Android phones? There's lots of YouTube videos about it. Go check it out. Flock responded to those saying, it's not really that big of a deal. It's probably fine, especially if they're not on the internet or internet-connected cameras. It should be fine. But, okay, it's showing our streets where our children walk to school, from school, etc., in a post-Epstein world where no one's been arrested yet. So I think there's something that we should be considering about that. We know that Flock is using imagery to train AI. We know that ICE is using Flock to search nationwide for people. We know that the Department of Homeland Security just entered a 5-year, $1 billion contract with Palantir and Clearview AI, which does facial recognition. They haven't said that that's going to go together with Flock yet, but it was not said. We don't know yet. There's a lot of stuff up in the air about this stuff, and I feel like we just don't know enough. And y'all are officers of the Constitution first, and that means that you have to protect the, Fourth Amendment.
Sarah, thank you very much. We do appreciate your testimony.
Anthony Miozzi.
It's very tough.
Traffic jam there.
Yeah.
Hello, how you doing? My name is Anthony Miozzi. I live on Meadowbrook in Cleveland Heights. Just to read a couple lines from the Cleveland Heights vision and mission, select a few sentences here and there. Cleveland Heights is a place driven by diversity of people and thoughts, where creativity is nurtured and valued. We are a community recognized for its safe and desirable neighborhoods. In the mission, it says to ensure a safe and desirable community through the delivery of excellent services in a responsive, open, sustainable, and fiscally responsible manner by caring and competent professionals. Under your organizational values, Cleveland Heights employees consistently demonstrate ethical behavior and are faithful stewards of the public trust. Public trust. We do not trust Flock. February 8th did happen, and it can happen again. And that is the least of our worries about Flock. She has mentioned several things, I won't repeat them. And Kent has already gotten rid of their Flock cameras. Evanston, Illinois has already gotten rid of their Flock cameras. We need to do it too. Crime prevention isn't more cameras spying and following the poorest and not whitest of our neighborhoods. Crime prevention is helping our communities get what they want and nourishing so people can desire our communities more. Get rid of Flock. And also, don't get rid of 1,000 trees and only plant 100 more. Thank you.
All right, thank you. We're going to move, we'll have more public comment later. We're going to move on to legislation first readings, consideration for adoption. Go ahead, Addie.
I have resolution number 066-2026 on first reading, a resolution declaring the fire damaged property at 3304 Altamont Road, Cleveland Heights, Ohio, to be a nuisance, authorizing abatement of the nuisance, and declaring the necessity that this legislation become immediately effective as an emergency measure, introduced by Mayor Petrus.
So moved.
All right, any discussion? I think we're all happy that we're getting to this property, which is quite a nuisance, pretty bad fire last year. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion passes.
Next, I have resolution number 067-2026 on first reading, a resolution authorizing the mayor to execute an agreement with Rush Truck Center for the acquisition of two 2026 International HV507 cabin chassis for the street maintenance and sewer divisions of the Department of Public Works, and declaring the necessity that this legislation become immediately effective as an emergency measure, introduced by Mayor Petrus.
So moved.
Second.
All right, any discussion? Yes, please.
I just want to thank the Public Works Department and the administration for bringing this forward. The last snow season, which hopefully is over, but you never know, here in Cleveland, demonstrated that we have some real structural issues when it comes to our snow removal. And one of those issues is the lack of sufficient trucks to cover our side roads at the same time that we have our big trucks covering the main roads. And thankfully, the administration was able to pivot this time around and get our pickup trucks on the road with plows. But with the imminent arrival of two additional snow plows and the one truck that is part of this legislation, and there's complementary legislation to outfit it later on the agenda, this is really going to help us to make the structural changes we need to improve our snow removal and give us the quality of service that all Cleveland Heights residents deserve. So I want to thank Mayor Petrus for his partnership and thank Public Works for moving so quickly on this to make sure that for next season, we have at least one extra truck in our arsenal. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Any other? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion passes.
Next, I have resolution number 068-2026 on first reading, a resolution authorizing the mayor to enter into an agreement with Southeastern Equipment Company for the acquisition of a BOMAG model BW120SL5 roller for the street maintenance division of the Department of Public Works, and declaring the necessity that this legislation become immediately effective as an emergency measure, introduced by Mayor Petrus.
So moved.
Second.
All right, any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion passes.
Next, I have resolution number 069-2026 on first reading, a resolution authorizing the mayor to enter into an agreement with Kleiss Equipment for the acquisition of a 2026 Bandit 15 XP chipper for the Forestry Division of the Department of Public Works, and declaring the necessity that this legislation become immediately effective as an emergency measure, introduced by Mayor Petrus.
So moved.
Second.
All right. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion passes.
Next, I have resolution number 070-2026 on first reading, a resolution authorizing the mayor to enter into an agreement with Judco Truck Equipment for the acquisition of two 11-foot stainless steel dump bodies with salt spreader and plow package for the street maintenance and sewer divisions of the Department of Public Works, and declaring the necessity that this legislation become immediately effective as an emergency measure, introduced by Mayor Petrus.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion?
These are the pieces of accessories for the two plow trucks, so.
Mayor, I just want to ask you, have we given up on the brine business?
The good news is that the brine truck can be used to plow side streets.
Okay.
So we gave it a try. The good news is that it was funded using grant dollars, so it's
Right.
not something that we had to pay for ourselves, but I suspect that next year we'll use it to plow our streets.
Got it. Okay. All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion passes.
Next, I have resolution number 071-2026 on first reading, a resolution authorizing the mayor to enter into an agreement with McQueen for the acquisition of a 2026 40-yard McNeilus Atlantic automated front loader for the refuse division of the Department of Public Works, and declaring the necessity that this legislation become immediately effective as an emergency measure, introduced by Mayor Petrus.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion passes.
Next, I have ordinance number 072-2026 on first reading, and ordinance amending ordinance number 060-2026 wage and salary ordinance to establish rates for Kane Park, to update various parks and recreation positions, rates, and job classifications, and to create the position of city engineer, and declaring the necessity this legislation become immediately effective as an emergency measure, introduced by Mayor Petrus.
So moved.
Second.
Councilman Posh?
I need to recuse myself on this.
All righty. Thank you. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Why don't we do a roll call?
Okay.
Cobb,
Aye.
Larson,
Aye.
DeWitt Foy,
Aye.
Posh, recused, Cohen,
Aye.
Kuda,
Aye.
Stone. All right. Next, I have resolution number 073-2026 on first reading, a resolution clarifying policies and procedures related to the City of Cleveland Heights' use of automated license plate reader technology, and declaring the necessity this legislation become immediately effective as an emergency measure, introduced by Council members Cohen, Posh, DeWitt Foy, and Stone, and Council President Kuda, Council Vice President Larson, and Mayor Petrus.
So moved.
Second.
All right. Any discussion? Councilman Posh, birthday boy?
Lucky me. I have a bit of a statement here to read, so please bear with me. This is relating to Flock. These license plate reader cameras that we're talking about in this legislation is to try to tighten some of the legislation around those devices and the privacy concerns that we have. 2 years ago, I was sitting in the window of the stone oven with a friend. We witnessed a hit and run accident. It was 7:30 in the morning. A teenage boy was walking to Heights. He stepped into the crosswalk. He was struck and went up and over the car's hood, landed on his head, and the car sped away. The boy was left unconscious, laying in a pool of his blood. Thankfully, an ER doctor had just walked into the stone oven and provided care. Our police EMS quickly arrived and did their job. After being hospitalized, thankfully, the boy was fully recovered. The police were able to solve this case because of Flock. There was no other tool available to them to be able to accomplish what they did. Last month, Councilmember Larson and I met with CHPD to see for ourselves how our police use Flock and to address our privacy concerns. We learned Flock is used in nearly all of our investigations. We learned how a senior citizen's stolen life savings was recovered from a fraudster because of Flock. We learned about missing family members who were found because of Flock. We learned about multiple instances of vehicular homicides and hit and run cases that were solved because of Flock. They would have never been solved otherwise. A common pleas judge living in Cleveland Heights reached out to me. Don't take away Flock cameras. Other than DNA testing, you'd be hard-pressed to find a more effective crime-solving tool. Flock decreases the need for high-speed pursuits. That's because you don't have to pursue the driver that you're pursuing because you can find them using Flock. One of my takeaways is the likely decrease in wrongful convictions because of Flock. Again, because you're getting photo evidence of who's committing crimes. When my daughters were school age, there were stories about strangers in vans stalking children on the way to school. Regrettably, we know a lot of this is real. Let's say we got rid of Flock and there was an abduction. Flock is the perfect tool to solve such crimes. If you were the parents of an abducted child, how would you feel if we got rid of Flock? This past month during council comments, a citizen asked us to eliminate Flock by saying, why should we want to make the job of our police easier for our police? Personally, I was disturbed hearing this, and we get a lot of feedback from our citizens, and I really respect the public comment process because that's how we learn things. We need people to come to us and talk. We are a community of 45,000 citizens. With this said, I do my research and consider the big picture and the greater good for all 45,000 of us. From that perspective, Flock is clearly a valuable tool for 45,000 residents. With any technology solution, there are data privacy considerations. While I believe Flock is an important tool, we need to make sure we are addressing our data privacy needs. Safeguards are important, and that's the purpose of this legislation. I also should say tonight that we realize this is kind of the first step in legislation that we have to look at. And one of the things that Council Member DeWitt Foy mentioned, that we need to look at this and we should bring that forth in our safety committee meetings, which are public meetings that people could attend and you can listen to all the comments that get made. The Flock access logs indicate our data has not been used for federal immigration enforcement. This is our policy and it's being included in this legislation. Flock includes tools to immediately restrict third-party access if our policies are not being followed. We have the logging tools to confirm this. It is my understanding that our administration is working to add additional safeguards beyond this legislation. Today's Flock legislation formally affirms and clarifies our existing safeguards regarding data protection, retention, permittable uses, and restrictions on information sharing in order to protect civil liberties, promote transparencies, and maintain public trust. I would like to thank our law department and administration for their work on this legislation. I feel a special thanks is due to Councilwoman Jessica Cohn for her work in this legislation. And it should be said, Council's Health and Safety Committee discussed this legislation and is recommending its passage.
Thank you, Councilman Posh. Vice President Larson.
I have a statement also. I attended the demonstration by the police department of the crime fighting capabilities of the Flock camera software with Councilmember Posh. The chief of police and Mayor Petrus and staff have reviewed the Flock contract with representatives from Flock. And after the demonstration, I am confident that the data collected is not being shared with any Homeland Security agencies. Additionally, Section 2 of our legislation tonight confirms that, quote, the city shall continue to retain data through the ALPR cameras for a period not to exceed 30 days, which is the current procedure, but now this is in a resolution, after which time the data shall be permanently deleted from the system unless such data pertains to an active law enforcement matter or prosecution of a criminal, quasi-criminal, or administrative nature or is otherwise required to be preserved by law, unquote. Section 3 of the legislation before us tonight states that, quote, the Cleveland Heights Police Department shall continue not to utilize ALPR technology for the purpose of civil immigration enforcement, not to utilize it, unquote. The software is used to solve crimes in our business districts and our neighborhoods. It has solved many crimes in our city when our neighbors have been hurt. Cleveland Heights needs to keep this software as a tool for the police department to use to continue to do their work. I would also add that I appreciate the comment that Councilmember DeWitt Foy gave this evening, that this is a work in progress. We're starting here tonight to incorporate some of the concerns that people have spoken to us about, and this is not the only thing that we can do going forward. And as time changes and situations change, we can possibly amend this legislation, but we needed to start someplace. And also thank you, Jessica Cohen, Councilwoman Cohen, for your work on this.
Thank you, Madam Vice President. Any other council comments? Councilwoman Cohen.
Well, my colleagues could not have said it better. I want to add just one, maybe 2 points. One is that these were policies. Well, first, let me start by thanking the administration. When we came to the administration with our concerns as council, there was a very quick response to not only work with us on potential legislation, but really dig in on the administration side. How do we use FLoC? How do we use data legally? What can and cannot we do? And I think that that partnership has indicative of really the continued cooperation and work that we're doing together to make, to just strengthen our collaboration, but also to make our city better. And on that note, I think one of the benefits of this legislation is that all of much of what is included in the legislation are administrative policies. But now that they're codified, or they will be once we hopefully pass this legislation, now that they're codified, to change those policies, that will require an amendment here by council. So that will allow us to bring that back publicly and have a public conversation around any changes that the administration may seek in these particular matters. I look forward to continuing the conversation on this. I think it's very clear that there's an open line of dialogue between council and the administration on this and almost every other matter that we discuss. And I think that the balance that we've struck here in protecting both public safety and civil liberties and standing up for immigrants' rights is something I'm very proud of, and I appreciate council's support in moving this legislation forward.
All right, Councilwoman.
I would like to just pick up on Vice President Larson's remarks and read the final section 4 of this legislation. I think it's important to hear what's actually in the legislation. No data or information collected via the city's ALPR system shall be shared with any federal, state, or local agency when the person fulfilling such a request knows it will be made for the purpose of civil immigration enforcement, unless the requesting agency presents a judicial warrant, search warrant, or a court order specifically authorizing the release of said data. So much of the impetus behind this legislation, in addition to refining the fine tool that really has aided our law enforcement forces, has been brought forward by you, by the community who have stood up before us month after month talking about the importance of our immigrant community and keeping them in mind as we move forward in this legislation. I want to thank you for doing that. It's not always been an easy conversation, but you can see that the headline of this legislation is protecting the most vulnerable among us.
Thank you, Councilwoman Stone. Yes, Councilor.
Real quick, we spoke about this in Committee of the Whole earlier tonight, so I won't reiterate all that. But I did want to thank Councilor Cohen for initiating this piece of legislation, all of our council members for engaging on this important topic, members of the community for raising this with us. And while I do see this as a positive step, I see it as a first step, and I look forward to continuing that conversation in an upcoming Public Safety and Health Committee meeting. Thanks.
All right, anybody else? Oh, yes.
I did have just a quick comment, if I might, which is that with respect to the use of the word codified, this resolution does not actually place into the codified ordinances this piece of legislation. It clarifies, it affirms, it formalizes, and puts in the form of legislation these policy determinations. But it's not actually codified in the formal sense. If council continues to work on this, and if the administration continues to work on this, and there's some larger or more fully developed set of principles and positions that the city develops, there may be a discussion that council may want to have at some point about coming up with a codified ordinance on privacy and ALPRs and so forth. But I just wanted to make that distinction.
All right, thank you, Law Director. I would just say, certainly I agree with what I've heard from my colleagues. For those of you who got up and spoke against this, please understand, I know this isn't much comfort, but your objections are noted. I know that the mayor shared some of your concerns today with the police chief, and every time you do that, you help us tighten things up. So we, again, do appreciate it. All in favor of this legislation?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion passes. Now we're on to 76 and 77.
Yes. I have a resolution number 076-2026 on first reading, a resolution appointing Timothy Gorham as citizen member of the Parks and Recreation Advisory Board of the City of Cleveland Heights, Ohio, to fill a vacancy for the remainder of an unexpired term, and declaring the necessity this legislation become immediately effective as an emergency measure introduced by Councilmember Cobb, Council President Kuda, and Council Vice President Larson.
All right. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
I'll second.
All right. Any discussion? All in favor? Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I just like to point out, we do have 2 additional vacancies on the Recreation Board. We'll be discussing those at the next Administrative Services Committee meeting. I know some people have reached out to me inquiring when decisions were going to be made. So this is the only one we've made on that so far.
All right. Perhaps later this month then?
Perhaps.
Okay. All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion passes.
All right, next I have resolution number 077-2026 on first reading, a resolution appointing Joyce Braverman, Daniel Budin, Maya Evans, Carly Johnson, Robert Kaminsky, Robin Coslin, Margaret Land, Deanne Lentz, Adam May, Jasmine Moses, Diana Nsima Mafagiri, Mohammed Wingenfeld, and Aaron Witchy to the Cleveland Heights Cumberland Pool Facilities Task Force, and declaring the necessity this legislation become immediately effective as an emergency measure introduced by Councilmember Cobb, Council President Kuda, and Council Vice President Larson.
So moved.
Second.
Do we have any comments? Yes, Councilman.
I again need to recuse myself of this and want to assure everybody that I was not part of any of the decision-making process or a member of the Administrative Services Committee, attended those meetings or anything like that. There's a family member of mine that's involved in this, and I just needed to just stay away from it, which I have done.
Appreciate that. Madam Vice President?
I'm looking forward to seeing the work of this task force and all of the discussion that we're going to have about the future of a pool in Cleveland Heights. So I'm glad this work got done, and thank you to Councilor Cobb to make it move forward.
Councilman Cobb?
I know there are going to be some people that are disappointed that they weren't appointed to this task force. We received 55 applications. 54 of those were timely. That is the most applications we've ever received to serve on any board, commission, or task force. So again, I want to thank everyone that did apply, and I am sorry that we were not able to appoint more people to this task force. I hope that you will continue to show interest in what happens with the Cumberland Pool, and all of their meetings will be public, so you'll have an opportunity to attend those meetings and presumably offer discussion when appropriate.
All righty. And I would like to join all of our colleagues in thanking you, Councilman Cobb, for the idea. And Mayor, thank you for going down to Columbus and batting for the city and trying to get money, and hopefully we'll be successful. Any other comments? All right, all in favor?
Why don't we do a roll call on this one?
Oh, yeah, okay.
Cobb?
Aye.
Larson?
Aye.
DeWitt Foy?
Yes.
Kuda?
Yes.
Cohen?
Aye.
Stone?
Aye.
And Posh is recused.
All righty, on to first readings only.
I have resolution number 074-2026 on first reading, a resolution authorizing the mayor to execute an agreement with Farnham Equipment Company for the purchase and installation of new ADA compliant bleachers for the Forest Hill Baseball Complex, and declaring the necessity this legislation become immediately effective as an emergency measure introduced by Mayor Petrus. And I have resolution number 075-2026 on first reading, a resolution authorizing the mayor to execute an agreement with KWK LLC, DBA Deluxe Outdoor Services, in order to furnish the labor, materials, equipment, and associated landscaping services necessary for the 2026 facilities landscaping and gardening services, and declaring the necessity this legislation become immediately effective as an emergency measure introduced by Mayor Petrus.
All right, and on to second readings.
On second reading, I have resolution number 056-2026 on second reading. A resolution authorizing the mayor to take all actions necessary to apply for and accept one or more Northeast Ohio Public Energy Council 2026 Energized Community Grants, and declaring the necessity this legislation become immediately effective as an emergency measure introduced by Mayor Petrus.
So moved.
Second.
All right, any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? All right, three more.
Next, I have resolution number 057-2026 on second reading, and ordinance authorizing all actions necessary to establish an opt-in natural gas program pursuant to section 4929.27A1 Ohio Revised Code, jointly through NOPEC as a NOPEC member, and declaring the necessity this legislation become immediately effective as an emergency measure, introduced by Mayor Petrus.
So moved.
Second.
All right, any discussion? Yes.
I would like to advise people to keep an eye out for any information from NOPEC because they should be sending us their rate structure and what they're offering for opting in to the gas program and also our electric rates if we can join the aggregate that is part of the city's cooperation with NOPEC. So look forward to that coming in your mail. It'll be some reading, but it's really important because rates are going to change on June 1st. Thank you.
And I'm not trying to push anybody one way or the other, but their NOPEC's basic argument is that you get these offers, for one low, kind of rate for a year, and then they go way up. And NOPEC's is much more steady. That's at least what they're going to basically say to you. Anyway, all in favor of this?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion passes.
Next, I have resolution number 058-2026 on second reading, a resolution authorizing the mayor to enter into an amendment to an agreement with Stantec Consulting Services, Inc. to prepare a housing needs assessment and declaring the necessity this legislation become immediately effective as an emergency measure, introduced by Mayor Petrus.
Motion?
So moved.
Second.
All right, any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
I believe we need to do a roll call on this one.
Okay.
Larson.
Aye.
DeWitt Foy.
Yes.
Posh.
Yes.
Cobb.
No.
Cohen.
Aye.
Kuda.
Aye.
Stone.
Aye.
Finally?
All right, last I have resolution number 059-2026 on second reading, a resolution authorizing the mayor to submit the Community Development Block Grant CDBG Annual Action Plan and Entitlement Application for the year beginning January 1, 2026, and declaring the necessity this legislation become immediately effective as an emergency measure, introduced by Mayor Petrus.
So moved.
Second.
All right, any discussion? Yes.
I just want to congratulate the Citizens Advisory Committee on all their hard work. The CDBG allocation is the result of a year process that is staffed by the city's planning department and involves, I think we have close to 20, if not more, members, 20-something on the Citizens Advisory Committee. They all serve for 1 year, and this is what they do is to help us to allocate the community development block grant funds from the Department of Housing and Urban Development, which are federal funds. So this is really the product of their hard work in collaboration with city staff, and I want to thank them for their service and the time that they spent both looking into the different projects and the nonprofits that are being funded, as well as the time they spent to share their recommendations with us at a meeting about, I think, 1 or 2 months ago. So thanks very much to the committee.
All right, thank you, Councilwoman. All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, and the motion passes, and now we're on to committee reports. And then public comment. Committee reports? Vice President Larson.
Municipal Services and Environmental Sustainability Committee meets April 13th at 6:30 p.m. The Transportation and Mobility Citizens Committee will be presenting their annual report required by the resolution that created that committee of their achievements and also future initiatives. And the next meeting of the Climate and Environmental Sustainability Committee is Tuesday, April 21st at 4 p.m. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilman Posh.
The Council's Health and Public Safety Committee met on March 26th, and we discussed 2 items. We discussed the license plate reading technology and the flock cameras. We also discussed the February 28th incident regarding our police officer pulling over a constitutional observer.
Yes, Councilman.
The Community Relations and Recreation Committee met on March 23rd to get an update from the team leading the Parks, Recreation, and Open Spaces Master Plan. This is the first time that council was able to hear directly and provide feedback to this team. I believe there will be at least one additional public meeting to gather feedback before the recommendations are finalized and presented to council, so stay tuned for that information. And because this was essentially pulling forward our April meeting of this committee, we won't meet next week and we'll regroup at a regularly scheduled time in May.
Very good. Councilwoman Stone?
The Housing and Building Committee will meet on Monday, April 13th at 5 p.m. We will hear from staff about plans the Housing and Building staff have for the coming year, which includes the initiation of a study of the Housing and Building codes. We will also be taking up legislation that had been previously discussed to regulate short-term rentals in the city. This will be a high-level conceptual discussion to begin. We anticipate that this will be a topic of public interest, so that will follow as we get into this issue. I also just wanted to reply to two residents who came forward at our last committee meeting to talk about a property at 2646 Noble Road and express concern. This is a condemned property that had a number of nuisance factors attached to it. Director Butler has told me that that property has been transferred in September to a new owner who's beginning renovations, and the city is in contact with them to ensure that the property remains in good repair.
Thank you. Councilwoman Cohen?
Yes, looking forward to April 28th at 5:30. The Planning and Development Committee will be meeting. We are hoping to be discussing landmark, an update to the Landmark Commission's ordinance, governing ordinance. I'm hoping to also have that legislation by the April 20th meeting for first reading. That ordinance has been started over 2 years ago and was done with outside counsel and was stalled in 2024. And so at the request of the Planning Department, we're bringing that back so we can finally update our Landmark Commission's governing ordinance. Also, for those who are interested in ADUs, accessory dwelling units, either you don't like them or you have a mother or mother-in-law who really wants one, we are working on having an additional meeting of the Planning and Development Committee meeting that will be open to the entire community. We're looking at the dates, if you missed it in Committee of the Whole, we're looking at the dates of May 5th or May 7th to be finalized very soon. This will be an opportunity for residents to come in to look at the designs that are from the previous ADU design competition that the city held, have a presentation from our planning staff as to the work that's already been done in this area, and also an opportunity for public comment and to speak to members of council that are in attendance. So looking forward to that, and we'll get the date out as soon as we have it confirmed.
All right, thank you. Now we're public comment general. Again, 2 minutes. If you're here, if you can keep it shorter, we'd appreciate it. How many do we have?
I think about 24 or
Yikes.
25.
Okay. Please, we'd really encourage you if you could go ahead. Again, name and the street you live on.
James O'Hare.
My name's James O'Hare, live on Kingston Road in Cleveland Heights.
There you go.
Live on Kingston Road in Cleveland Heights. A comment of hers is that the sewer district will commit to maintaining 24 acres of this improved land. And the number 24 comes up because a number 24 got used in one of the public sessions, was that this plan for the lower lake was based on a study, it's ODNR, that 24 inches of rain in 24 hours. That's what it was being designed for. And if you look anywhere, you find that about 4.5 inches of rain in the state of Ohio in the last 100 years. That's the most rainfall ever. So I know they can say that's what ODNR is requiring. It's their job as fiduciaries for us to push back on that, to sue if necessary. It's a ridiculous situation. I grew up in Colwood, so I grew up near the lake. My mother did. The lake was always part of my life. Lived there for 60 years. Sorry to leave Lake Erie. Came here The lake was great. I lived through the erosion of the lake in the 60s. Whole houses would fall into the lake, and it just seemed insurmountable. This is not insurmountable because the biggest erosion that's happening here is not houses falling in. It's an erosion of trust. When they say they're going to do this and do that, I don't trust them because I was there at the meeting. I was there at the meeting when they said that Horseshoe Lake was going to go, but they were committed to Lower Lake. 3 months later, everything changed. So what else is going to change? Thank you.
Gail Bromley.
Mayor, I'm sorry, I'm losing my voice. I apologize. President Kuda and Vice President Larson and council members. I'm here because I am deeply concerned about what is happening, and it resonates that there's a lack of trust because there's been a lack of transparency with the information that has not been shared or it has been inadequately shared. I've met with many citizens in the community, Cleveland Heights, Shaker Heights, and in Cleveland, and I have found from them that they've known nothing about the trees being chopped down. They didn't know that the lakes were going to be changed forever. And what I'm here to do is to ask you to consider a pause so that people can have transparent information about the plans, about the finances, long and short term, so that we can move forward as a community. I laud many of you for carrying us through some tumultuous times this last couple of months here in Cleveland Heights. You've done a nice job, thank you. We need that same courage to move us forward so we can have transparency and so we don't have a destruction. People would give anything for lakes, a parkland like this in an inner-ring suburb. We're so fortunate to have such a gem, and to lose those would be a real tragedy. And I'll give my 22 minutes to somebody else. 22 seconds.
Jeff McManus.
Hi, Jeff McManus, Essex Road, Cleveland Heights. So I think it's important to have an outcome both at Lower Lake, as the mayor said, and at Horseshoe that the public is happy with. And the Horseshoe plan was sold as a restoration of nature. I don't think anyone would hear those words and think that means removing 1,000 trees. I went to a park design open house in December of 22, and I told them it's important to preserve trees, as the public consistently said throughout the process, and they never, throughout a years-long public engagement process, mentioned removing trees. Then after engagement ended, they said in places that few people would see it, oh, we have to remove 1,000 trees, but they're mostly invasive trees. Recently, after the cities approved the plans, they said, oh, actually, they're mostly healthy native trees. I don't like being lied to. And I think if a plan is proposed to radically alter a historic public park and the entire process is conducted in a misleading manner, it would be really bad to allow the plan to go forward. It would do tremendous damage to public trust in municipal government. And if the public has been misled about the plan and then they hate the actual plan when they see it carried out and it's too late to go back, that would not be good for any of us. So thank you. I hope you can stand up for us.
Corby Roberts.
Corby Roberts, Clayton Road, Shaker Heights, Cleveland Heights Historical Society, a trustee, and also one of the consulting party for the Section 106. Council, I want you to imagine what the Heights would be like if the highway had managed to be built through the Shaker Lakes and also Cleveland Heights. This would be an entirely different place. And it was the people of the Heights and the councils at that time that came together to fight, and it was quite a fight. And for 60 years, we've had that beautiful parkland, which is ecologically valuable, contains history from Native American settler and Shaker periods, including it was then transformed into a city beautiful park that we continue to enjoy today. And that is deed protected and is supposed to be held in perpetuity for the people, we the people, free and open to all people regardless of where you live. Now, fast forward when the ODNR said that there were updates that were needed to the dams, which happens periodically, including an additional spillway and more of a freeboard space, et cetera. Those dams were remediable. And these small dams all throughout the country are being remediated and upgraded with no problem managing to do it. Now, all of a sudden, the sewer district, I think, found an opportunity to take away our parks from us. And those are supposed to be protected for the people. They claim they were doing a restoration. And as you see by their public plans, they are in no way restoring those parks to nature. They are coming in and they are dumping cement, riprap, and also continual pesticides all over our Shaker Lakes parks. They took one lake down. Now they're planning on taking the other lake down. They don't have plans. They didn't have plans to save the history in the park. Very little history is being saved. Most of it's being bulldozed. And we ask, please, that this belongs to the people, not the sewer district.
Thank you, Corby.
All right. Their plan is not even necessary. There are alternatives to what they want to do. And it's important that we hear, we have a right to hear those alternatives.
Corby, we got a lot of people.
Thank you.
Jennifer Wintner.
Jennifer Wintner, Scarborough Road. The sewer district is a public body, but it lacks all accountability to the public. In fact, it blatantly disregards the public as it plows ahead with plans to add to its destruction of Horseshoe Lake by destroying the lower lake, cutting down over 1,100 trees between Lower Lake and Horseshoe Lake, and destroying the habitats of countless wildlife. The sewer district refuses to share vital information with the public, and more importantly, has refused to study or acknowledge the studies others have done of alternatives to their plans to devastate the parks that are fundamental to the character of Cleveland Heights and Shaker. Mayor and council, I appreciate your willingness to listen and I hope do something. I'm imploring you to use your influence and call for a pause to all activity relating to the Shaker Lakes. Cleveland Heights, Shaker, and Cleveland, with or without the sewer district, can use that time to get a quality engineering study done to determine what flooding problems might exist and how to address them while maintaining as much of the lakes and trees as possible. The result the sewer district should have been pursuing from the start. As you know, time is of the essence. The sewer district is ready to dump an enormous amount of riprap at the lower lake to add to the riprap it dumped there several years ago, after cutting down all the trees that lined the lake's western bank and which provided erosion control. Please call for a pause in all activity and bring some sanity to the Shaker Lakes discussion. Thank you.
Lorraine Schukert.
Mayor and members of council, my name is Lorraine Schukert. I live on Fairhill Road, which actually is in Cleveland Heights, believe it or not. And I'm here to briefly address the lack of transparent and public communications that have taken place. I am a communications professional, so I look at this not only as a resident, but also as a communications professional. There were Disney-like sessions. If you could imagine something for the lakes, what would it be? People gave ideas, great. after that happened and plans were made, those plans were not brought back. There were no plans brought, hey, we're talking about removing the dams. Hey, we may need to remove, we're going to remove Lower Lake. People are going around still believing that the lakes are going to be improved, and no one's done anything to let them know that there are actually alternative plans in place and that other plans are being disregarded. We all know that where there's a will, there's a way. The lakes offer physical and mental wellness to the residents of the area, and removing them would be more of a disaster than removing the dams. I urge you to put in place a strategic communications process that invites residents to the table with the real plans, not the ones that we imagined. Thank you.
Andrew Saltzman.
Andrew Saltzman, North Park, Cleveland Heights. Mayor and council, thank you. Here to speak concerned about the destruction of Horseshoe Lake, Lower Lake, and the tree parkland between those areas. Really concerned about the 1,000 trees that's going to disappear. Understand that we're going to put it, the sewer district commits to maintaining saplings after those trees are removed. I think it's alarming that that land has developed for 200 years and that the sewer district calls this a restoration plan because it's a construction plan for constructing a new parkland. And that might be nice if there wasn't already a parkland there, but I believe that every solution that we seek in that area has to say, how can I be the least invasive in the area that's already developed there? And I'm not talking about developed by humans. I'm talking about the ecosystem that's developed there. Any construction of that magnitude is going to be so disruptive to the flora and the fauna that are already in the area. And any sugar coating that could be thrown on top at the end of the process, it's going to take decades and decades to restore what's already there. I find it concerning that we haven't heard any viable alternatives and that we're stuck with this horrible plan of the sewer district.
Penny Allen.
Hello there, Penny Allen, Edge Hill Road. I am president of Friends of Horseshoe Lake and Save the Shaker Lakes, a project of Friends of Horseshoe Lake. We have been working diligently for 4 years to find ways to preserve these lakes and also flood control as necessary. Our involvement right now is in the Section 106 review process. That's historic mitigation of historic damage to an historic site. And they're all, interestingly, all the non-governmental interested parties involved in this process have objected and do not feel that the so-called mitigations proposed by the sewer district are true mitigations. The law is originally conceived, said that if the parties cannot come to an agreement on a mitigation, the project can't go forward. And we have not. Not one of the individual interested parties or the citizen groups such as the Cleveland Heights Historical Society, the Friends of Horseshoe Lake, have agreed that the so-called mitigations included in the memorandum of agreement are actually mitigations. Just a note on what we might be losing, not only the Shaker history, but also a tremendous wildlife resource. Audubon records show that on migration, some 5 at Horseshoe Lake, hosts some 5 endangered species, 3 threatened and 7 of concern.
Penny, I'm sorry, we're out of time. But thank you so much.
So
No, we can.
have the sewer district help you instead of meet your obligations.
Kim Carroll?
Hi, thank you for allowing me to speak and all of us to speak. We appreciate being listened to. I'm Kim Carroll. I live on Belfield. I've lived there for 43 years, raised my children there, and spent lots of hours around the lakes. It's a wonderful educational and recreational resource. And it's one of the reasons I live here, actually. We need lots of public engagement on this. When we had the Top of the Hill project, which is right down at the end of my street, there were 36 public meetings with public input from people. Where are they now? They were all announced by the city. We had lots of engagement from people, and we need to have that, and we need transparency, absolutely. I too am I say that the Lower Lake impacts not only our area, like the Top of the Hill did, but everybody in northeastern Ohio reveres it and knows about it. And it's part of our lives. And as other people have said, habitat to so many animals and well as native and pollinator plants. And the tree canopy, our whole neighborhood would be changed if that were gone. Some people say, well, it's just a man-made lake. Well, Wade Lagoon in front of the Art Museum is a man-made lake. Because it's a man-made lake doesn't mean it's a bad thing. This is Cleveland Heights. I can't believe that we can't have more creative solutions. We are surrounded by intelligent, well-educated, creative minds, and there's got to be something else besides this plan that the sewer district says we have to do this. We don't. We don't. And one final note is that I found it very ironic when I was reading Cleveland.com last month, and they advertise a house every week, and there was this beautiful house on North Park. I think it's at the corner of Arlington, and not more than once the realtor said, and this lovely home faces the beautiful Shaker Lakes.
Tiffany Massing?
Hi, Tiffany Massing. I live on Delamere here in Cleveland Heights. A lot of people have said some of the things that I wanted to say, so I won't belabor all of that. I do want to echo the concerns about the lack of transparency, the number of times we have had to file Freedom of Information Act requests, the number of times they have been ignored. We've had to ask multiple times. If we hadn't gotten through a Freedom of Information Act request, the 300-page document that the sewer district came out with, we would have no idea at this point that they were going to cut down over 1,000 trees. It's disheartening to have our public servants, it feels like you're hiding things from us that you won't tell us. I also, a little bit hurt. I keep sending emails to you. We all keep sending emails to you. No one ever emails back to say, hey, got your message. Hey, I read that blog that you sent me. Mayor Petrus, when he was first in office, he did have a meeting with us. I know a couple of people have had meetings with Council Member DeWitt Foy. Sarah is newer. I have not been emailing you yet, but I will. Some sort of response to let us know that you're getting what we're sending you, that you're actually listening, would be very much appreciated. I'd also like to say, I'd echo the last speaker, this group that's in opposition to the project, we're full of very creative people. We're lawyers, we're scientists, we're historians, we're concerned people. There are people who have literally put their lives on hold and done almost nothing else for the last 2 months, 3 months. We're here to help you. We want to be a partner for you in all of this. We feel like there are funding bodies that we can tap into that haven't been tapped into. We feel like we can help you find money. We feel like we can help you sort of restore the trust that you've lost for the citizens. So thank you.
Kevin Charnas.
Hello, I'm Kevin Charnas. I'm from Exeter Road in Cleveland Heights, and I echo everything that my fellow citizens have said. And in regards to the sewer district, it's no surprise that their shady track record speaks for itself. They're not known for their parks. But I would also implore you guys to have, if you are able to grant us a pause, or what you do with Lower Shaker Lake, is to actually have a fully diverse board to address matters. My education and background is psychology and cardiology, and so I always come from a psychological standpoint. Did you ever actually bring a social psychologist on board? Because we can talk about, I hear it's kind of demeaning to tell people, about the nostalgia of the lakes. There's actually hard data that shows about the importance of blue space. A brook, we have plenty of brooks. Stone Brook is beautiful. I love it on the other side of Coventry. But blue space involves lakes, or at least large ponds. And when Horseshoe got decimated, I heard from the sewer district that there would be some large ponds. I didn't see any large ponds in that plan. And so I don't like the either or. And I don't like that the sewer district, it just bulldozes stuff, full pun intended. And so I would appreciate more of an intellectual, critical thinking on approaching this matter, from everything from the environment to the social fabric of this community. Because we hear about the event planner and all these wonderful things that we do as a community to boost the morale of our city. Well, those lakes matter, and you can see it in data. It's research. Thank you.
Joseph Charnas.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Joseph Charnas. I live on Tudor Drive in Cleveland Heights, and I really want to echo the concern regarding the trees. We live in an inner ring suburb here. Mature trees are a finite resource. The most recent reports from the Cuyahoga County Planning Commission, the canopy assessment showed that even though Cleveland Heights and Shaker Heights enjoy some of the most intact tree canopies in the entire county, we are also losing that canopy at the fastest rate in the entire county. From 2011 to 2017, our tree canopy declined by 13.3%. To think that we can just remove 563, I'm going to say they're mature trees if they're over 10 inches in diameter at breast height, that's crazy to think that we can afford to reduce our canopy even further. I volunteer with the Heights Tree people. I do not speak on their behalf by any means, but I try to volunteer with them a few times a year, which they're a wonderful group if anyone is looking for something to volunteer with. Since they've been in work or in working order, they've planted 1,200 trees across the Heights. And that is all for naught when all of these trees are cut down and replaced with saplings that we will never, no one in this room will see them grow to maturity. So I speak just for the trees, I guess. Thank you.
Lee Barbie.
Good evening. My name is Lee Barbie. I live on Hereford. I'm here today to talk about a simple and important request. I'm asking council to pass an ordinance placing a charter amendment on the ballot to establish a ward-based system of representation so that the residents don't have to carry the full burden of collecting signatures to be heard. Council has the legal authority to do this, and the question before you tonight is not whether the residents can petition, because we can. The question is, will council lead or will council wait to be pushed? We already see what representation looks like. We've already seen some people on council are actively representing their neighborhoods. They're showing up, they're engaging, they're responsive, and that's what representation looks like. So this is not a question of whether a ward-based system works, because it's already happening informally. Now there's a time to make it formal, fair, and accountable every request for every resident. Accountability matters. We recently heard in a public meeting where some information was missed. Some members of council were learning about decisions made for the first time. And that's a statement matters, because it highlights something deeper. A lack of structure leads to a lack of accountability. And when accountability is unclear, residents don't know who to call, who to represent, and who is accountable. A ward-based representation fixed that. A ward system answers that clearly. Every resident has a defined representative. Every neighborhood has a voice. Every elected official has accountability. So I ask this council to do not ask what the residents can do to carry this process. Ask what you can do to help residents advocate for themselves.
Edgar Mitchell.
Good evening, everyone. Residents of Cleveland Heights, Shaker Heights, Council President, Jim Petrus, Mayor, Law Director. Good evening to all of you guys. As always, I try to come in peace. So I didn't know what was happening with Shaker Lakes, but I'm an old person, so I would really like to keep things like they were when I was young. So I'm saying that. But anyway, I know it's hard to stop change, because change comes sometime whether we like it or not. But we really need to work for what's best, not necessarily change. So, but I really shouldn't talk about that because I didn't have knowledge about that. I don't like to speak about something I don't know about. But I came to thank council, the mayor, and everyone that participated in taking care of a problem I had with some sewer leakage on Neela View Road. They're working on that. They're getting all that taken care of. Mayor, take my hat off to you for putting that together. And that's going to happen before the summer's over. They're getting that together. And I love Cleveland Heights, and I love all the residents of Cleveland Heights and the city of Cleveland and Shaker. What we have to do is try our best to do the things that you're talking about doing. We have to push hard to get what we want to get to. So if I can help anybody, if I can offer you a kind word or anything I can do, I'll try to do that. Council, thanks again for allowing us to bring forth these things to you from Shaker and from every one of us. God bless you all.
Thank you, Edgar.
Bert Stratton.
I'm Bert Stratton from Shelburne Road in Cleveland Heights. I just want to point out to the council that there's about 15 people kind of at a rock concert. They've been standing for an hour and a half at the rail. And that's quite impressive because most of them are not 20 years old. I mean, this is a big deal. That's why you got so many people here. I mean, I walked up to the lake about 7 years ago. I said, hey, my lake, where'd it go? I mean, my car was once stolen, but my lake was never stolen. And I'm still recoiling from it. And I really appreciate that this is a unique and awesome community, like the event planner said. And, you know, we're talking about the Cedar League. It's great. Cumberland Pool, great. What about Shaker Lakes? What about Horseshoe Lake in particular? Mayor Petrus said he wasn't here at the time, but he said it's kind of a done deal on Horseshoe Lake. It's gonna be re-meandered streams. Whoa, I can go to South Euclid for that. You wanna see blue water like the psychologist, cardiologist, that's what we want. Or the man from Collinwood. We want this stuff to stay. And that's the bottom line. Don't destroy the village to save it, as we used to say in the Vietnam days. Keep the lakes, both of them. Thank you.
Anthony Cumberworth.
Anthony Cumberworth, East Scarborough, between Lee and Taylor. I didn't realize I'd have to speak when I signed that piece of paper.
You don't have to.
I think that everybody in here wants to keep that lower lake full of water. Yeah. If you have to drain it to fix the dam, drain it, fix the dam, and put the water back in. We want to see it here 50 years from now. That's all I got to say. Yeah.
Amy Weinferner.
I'm Ed Weinfertner, not Amy, Shaker resident. I'm a visual learner. This is a thing that we whipped together from the blueprints for the plans. These are all the trees that are going to be cut down. The reason that this isn't in a fancy marketing presentation like comes out of the sewer district is because this information was left out of all the presentations, all the engagement, Mr. Posh, that you asked about. Not once in any of those sessions was anything presented on these trees cutting down. There's been a tree inventory that's been in existence for at least 18 months, maybe 24 months, was not made public. We got this information through a public information request through the city of Shaker. You all voted, Shaker Heights voted on proceeding with the plans. This tree information was not known to the public. We had an event this past weekend trying to raise visibility and awareness of the fact that this is going on, because people don't even know what's happening. The people here today are a result of that. The thing on Channel 3 and Channel 8 are the result of that. We talk about having confidence and transparency. These decisions have been made, and everybody doesn't know exactly what's going on. And I am appreciative that we're going to plant another 1,000 trees to replace them. Again, I'm a visual guy. This is what is being put in. This is what exists. Relative size, right? We're talking about 2-inch to 4-inch saplings relative to the average size of the core diameter of these trees, 18 inches. There's 150 that are larger than 30 inches in diameter. As far as tree canopy.
Thank you. I'm sorry, your time's up.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thomas Gilchrist.
Hello, I'm Tom Gilchrist. I live on Demington Drive. I've raised my wife Amy and I raised our family there for 34 years. Lower Shaker Lake particularly, and the North Park Ravine and Horseshoe Lake have been part of our heritage for our family. By the way, I grew up on Chatfield as a child.
To the mic, we're having trouble hearing you.
I grew up on Chatfield in Cleveland Heights as a kid, attended Roxborough Elementary, and Shaker Lakes was part of my life then too. So I very much hope that we can find a way to keep things as much as the way they are as possible. Thank you.
Amy Gilchrist.
Hi, good evening. Thank you for listening to us tonight. Amy Gilchrist, I'm on Demington Drive, and like Tom said, we've lived at our house for 35 years. We bought it thinking we'd be there for 2 years, and we're here 35 years later, and part of our daily routine is walking around the lower lake. It's a core part of our emotional health and our physical health. What I like a lot is seeing other community members that are there, whether they're boys fishing or people. It brings me great pleasure to see lots of cars come to the lower lake on a beautiful day. I echo everything that everybody has said here tonight, a lot of intelligent people, and I didn't know I was going to be speaking tonight. I didn't even hear about the trees until tonight, actually. So I think that is a testament to the transparency that we're all requesting. I tried to read the Heights Observer and all the newsletters that are out. Fortunately, I did get an email saying, come tonight. I had to read the agenda on the website in order to know that the opportunity was here tonight. So I dragged my husband to come tonight. So thank you for listening to us, and I really hope we can be creative and find a solution to this.
Lou Radovojevich.
There he is. You're in the overflow.
What's that?
You're in the overflow.
I was in the overflow. Been a while. Greetings, Mayor, Council. My name is Lou Radovojevich. I live on Middlehurst Road. Actually, I just wanted to discuss and get some closure on the $850,000 grant for the Blanche extension. That's what I need some help. I'm stuck on this. I just don't understand how we receive the grant money without community engagement. I looked at the purpose of the grant. I know that the letter of it was specific to be applied towards the extension. But, to me, when I look back at comparing it to Lakewood, Lakewood used it for a completely different purpose. They used it for water. And I look at it and said this funding was for projects that benefit the communities that they represent. But what I really struggled when I'm reading this is that the CPFs, or community projects funding, is for only projects with demonstrated community support will be considered. And that's what I'm just trying to find, is where was that done, where the community support will be considered. I looked at the March 19th event. That was more frustration than it was excitement. I looked at council, those that were there in 2023, that were very not aware of what was taking place with it. And you're learning as you're going. That, to me, does not define what I hear as demonstrated community support. So that's what I'm struggling with, is where the demonstrated community support took place with this grant that the federal government gave to us in 2023 or 2024 when we requested it. And it's just a fair question that I'd like to know. Thank you.
Before you call the next person, I just want to quickly say that, I think that the former mayor did not inform council. We read about it in the e-newsletter. I have said that before, and no other information was ever given to us. So I just want to be clear about that part of it. I'm not saying that it's unknowable.
Right.
You probably have to go to people that are not here anymore.
It's the simple fact that it requested from the government demonstrated community support. And to me, even if the administration was able to pull it off without anyone from council knowing, then you didn't get demonstrated community support. If the people are fighting in the neighborhood,
I understand that.
So that's really the essence of the discussion. Thank you.
Thank you. Yep.
George Peril. I'm sorry if I pronounced that wrong. George Peril. Oh, Paris. Thank you.
Hi, George Paris. I live on South Park. I look at the lake every day. I agree with what everyone has been talking about. This is a wonderful asset for this community, and I think that the problem is that it just hasn't been fully realized, its potential. I've been there for 30 years, and in my opinion, the lake has, outside of perimeter improvements, has basically languished. I mean, nothing's been done with it. It's overgrown. You can't fish on it. You can't boat on it. I mean, canoe or kayak, whatever. Years ago, they used to have a boathouse, as everybody knows, and it must have worked for a long time because there were regattas out there and a lot of activity. So I think that that is one of the issues, is that it's not that that we just want to keep the lake the way it is. I think that there's more that can be done with it to make it a better asset for the community. Every year they have Connect to the Lake, which I'm sure you guys are all familiar with. You get a couple hundred people down there. in a 6-hour period, and everyone turns out for it. And I couldn't help but think is the comparison of this to Hinkley Lake, because that's what they do year round. It's an open place, it's an open park, and in the summertime there's stuff going on there all the time. Now we're just a microcosm of that, but we could do something similar and make this a really great asset, a better asset than it is right now. And I concur with other people that said that they want to bring Horseshoe Lake back. The lake is still there. The historic elements are still there. There's no reason why we can't keep them. One last point, and this is on the internet if you want to look at it. The Hinkley Lake restoration will be done this summer at a cost of $12 million. I understand from what I've read about the estimates from the sewer district is that it would cost $55 million for us to restore a much smaller lake and a smaller dam. So that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Harriet Applegate.
Harriet Applegate, Crest Road. I was very disturbed when on March 28th at the No Kings demonstration, the city of Cleveland Heights was attacked. This was inappropriate in so many ways. I will just enumerate a few. The idea of No Kings is to bring people together around unifying themes, not to divide and attack other members of the coalition against Trump. The focus here is fighting fascism, not to divert attention to local skirmishes. To bring one group's beef with one city council and one county at one state is exploitative and reeks of tunnel vision. Cleveland Heights for Immigrant Rights hijacked an otherwise unifying event over tactical differences in pursuing mutual goals. On March 28th, Cleveland Heights City Council and Mayor were not the enemy. The rest of us were protesting a far bigger enemy and the source of the problem, Donald Trump and his criminal grifters. To put the city of Cleveland Heights anywhere near them, to draw any analogies or comparisons is false and morally wrong. Having said this, many, if not all, of Cleveland Heights for Immigrant Rights stated goals are laudable, and many in our city, including the mayor and city council, largely share them. It's how they go about getting what they want that is objectionable. As a matter of strategy, why would you publicly attack the very people you are trying to persuade? The controversy is for the most part about methods, not goals. Cleveland Heights for Immigrant Rights doesn't like the way City Council has proposed to fund legal defense, ignoring the fact that City Council is willing to find the funds. I realize that groups around the country want to have institutional support for their causes, and philosophically, that's a good idea. But here and now are not the time and place. Cleveland Heights is a city desperately trying to right its small ship, its dinghy of state, as it were. It is besieged with problems everywhere it turns.
Harriet, I'm sorry, we're out of time, but thank you.
Okay.
Sorry.
Robin Coslin.
Now you're telling me too. I'm going to have to go really fast. Robin Coslin, Wood Road. These are not ordinary times we're living in. It is so not ordinary that the very radical group, the League of Women Voters, has declared us to be in the midst of a constitutional crisis. American citizens have been killed for engaging in peaceful protest, and immigrants and refugees are being treated in subhuman ways. I know each of you is dismayed and disgusted as I am. I could go on and on, but I only have 2 minutes. I am not here to accuse you, Council, of anything. I have not been privy to conversations between elected officials and Cleveland Heights for Immigrants' Rights. I am here to talk about how we should be resolving issues. The Shaker Lakes one kind of comes into that, rather than the issues themselves. I'm going to cite one piece of the Cleveland Heights for Immigrants' Rights 8-point plan to illustrate how Council and the Mayor engage with the community group in a constructive, cooperative, and collaborative manner. Section 1 of the proposal by Cleveland Heights for Immigrants' Rights is entitled Legal Counsel for Immigrants. The initial paragraph states, the city of Cleveland Heights will ensure access to free legal representation for immigrants facing removal procedures, including those who reside in Cleveland Heights immediately before being retained. There are more specifics in their plan, but I can't go into that right now. I commend Jessica Cohen for researching and finding organizations that will provide free legal services, including clinics and access to lawyers through existing organizations to our immigrant neighbors. This is an example of listening to members of the community and finding a compromise that addresses the core issue. I also want to acknowledge the philanthropic group AMI that has been and continues to fund legal services to our immigrant neighbors. I know that Immigrant Rights Organization wants more, but you're given a lot. We here in this community can attempt to be an example of how to combat the deplorable behavior of our national and state government through civic engagement. Instead, we need to communicate, we need to collaborate, and we need to work together. Thank you very much.
Guy Thelian.
Good evening. I'm Guy Thelian. I live on Delwood Road in Cleveland Heights. Mayor, member of the council, and Cleveland Heights residents. I'm here today to talk about the resolution on tonight's agenda regarding the city's contract with Flock. I'm sorry, I'm a little out of order. Anyway, I'm a little out of order. I support giving our police the tools they need to protect residents. And I recognize that surveillance can help with safety, but surveillance can also interfere and even destroy freedom and openness in our society. We must be careful and intentional in deploying such technology. Tonight's resolution could address concerns that I and other residents have. If Flock could be trusted. Unfortunately, experience throughout the country indicates that they cannot be trusted. 30 cities have ended their contracts with Flock due to issues including privacy and data misuse. Information supposedly controlled by the city has been accessed by out-of-state and federal agencies. Our neighbors in Shaker Heights have researched Flock's nationwide record and is now asking their city to cancel the contract to protect their residents. Their findings are available on shakeoffflock.org. if anyone wants to go look at that. I shared these materials with the mayor last week and with council today, as you know. My question is simple. Given the record of Flock in their data, treatment of their data and their behavior, all right, why should the residents of Cleveland Heights trust Flock? Why do you trust Flock, given the evidence that they are not trustworthy? And I'd like to know the answer. All right, I support the legislation that was been put in place tonight, passed. It's a step in the right direction. I particularly support many comments indicating this is a first step, all right, which is important. Other than that, thank you for your service to this city and to the residents of Cleveland Heights.
Ed Weinfertner.
I'll start with the tree.
Name and
Amy, Shaker Heights. I'll start with the trees. I have a lot to say here. First of all, did everyone see this article in the Plain Dealer that came out on Sunday? Beautiful article. Now is the time to plant a tree. I'll skip right to the part. Too often we don't think about planting a new tree until we remove one. I think we need to change the mindset. If we're not careful, we actually do a disservice to our children and grandchildren. If we cut down a large tree, even replant one immediately, it takes decades to even get close to the same size, which means your children may never experience the majesty of a large tree in their own neighborhood. I hope we don't move to the point where large trees are only novelties or antiques, only visible in parks or cemeteries. Research is clear. The closer trees are to people, the more physical and mental benefits we derive from them. Research is also clear that the larger the tree, the greater the benefits. So that's one. I have a question that I would like to ask because the fighting on behalf of Lower Lake tends to come up a lot. And I would love the answer to this as clear and as transparent as possible if you guys are willing to get it. And that would be, was the lawyer that you guys hired to stop the removal of Lower Lake or to challenge the sewer district's plan? Could anybody answer that specifically? Again, I'll repeat it. Was the lawyer hired to stop the removal of Lower Lake or to challenge the sewer district's plan? Is anybody willing to answer that? No. Okay. Next, again, I'll circle back to the trees. There is a.
I'm sorry, we're out of time.
Already? Okay.
Christine Heggie.
Mr. President, if I might, just real quickly on the question. Mark Wallach was engaged by the two cities to explore the decision-making, the analysis, the engineering work that the sewer district did leading up to its change in position last year on the reconstruction versus the removal of the Lower Lake Dam.
So were they actually hired to stop the removal? So that question.
So again, I've answered your question, and I have.
No.
Yeah, I didn't say it was advisement. I said it's investigation.
Hired to stop the removal of Lower Lake or the challenge? Yes or no?
Not at this time.
Christine Heggie.
He was hired, I'm sorry, he was hired to conduct a full investigation, to go through the diligence work, to see where things are, to see if the district's explanations hold water. And depending upon the outcome of that investigation, we don't know what the next steps might be.
We could talk, you could talk afterwards. Go ahead, Christine.
Christine Heggie, East Monmouth Road, Cleveland Heights. I'd just like to push back a little bit on a few things Mr. Sharver brought up. I understand that nationwide permits are reissued every 5 years. Extensions may be considered based on Army Corps discretion, but it's been 8 years since 2018. And considering the major changes occurring at the Lower Lake, and particularly as a result of the drainage of Horseshoe Lake, it seems reasonable that they would do a new reassessment of the Lower Lake conditions for an updated nationwide permit. Second, I am a consulting party member of the Section 106 process, and I'd like to point out a few things where procedure hasn't been followed appropriately. One, the Section 106 review process and inclusion of consulting parties was not started until 100% of the project design was complete. That's not inclusion of public input. We were prohibited from discussing any alternatives that would avoid or minimize demolition to the lakes or Horseshoe Lake and dam. And despite numerous comment submissions by consulting parties, not one suggestion was incorporated into the project design, not one. And then finally, I would like to say there's a little bit misleading information when Mr. Sarver talks about consensus in the memorandum of agreement, because we have approximately 12 consulting parties. Only 3 of them have veto power to stop the MOA, and about 5 now that are representing public preservation interests are not going to sign the MOA because they disagree with it based on what I've described. And so that's about half of the consulting parties not going along with that. That is not a good representation of effective public input. And the whole purpose of the National Historic Preservation Act is to include public input on projects, federal projects that are going to affect historic properties. So I think it's important that we look at those things before we move ahead because they need to be corrected. Thanks.
Quentin Yoder.
Hello, Council. My name is Quentin Yoder. I live on Bridgeview Drive. Tonight, I've heard a number of concerns across a number of different issues, and the number one through theme is transparency and can we trust our local government? Can we trust our local government to keep information about us, to read our license plates, to gather as much data as they can about the way that we drive, about where we go, flock specifically? Can we trust what the government tells us about what they're doing with their current projects? And what I'm really here to talk about is February 28th. Can we trust your investigation of the February 28th incident? And my answer is a resounding no. On February 28th, ICE requested that Cleveland Heights Police Department pull over a protester who had been following them. We know that this was ICE because we have recordings of the officers discussing their target's immigration status in an operation that they were running, saying, Quote, he's a final order Colombian, he can go. And about his brother, well, he has no pending anything. He has no pending asylum, no pending nothing. He can also go as well. Afterwards, ICE detailed that they were being followed by someone and asked the local and flagged down a Cleveland Heights police officer, to which he claimed that the protester was driving recklessly. Upon no further investigation by the officer then detained the legal observer. This is concerning. ICE has more than enough money to conduct their own operations. They have more money than certain national militaries. I don't want my local tax-paying dollars going to supporting ICE operations. Secondly, police officers put themselves in undue risk when conducting traffic stops in general. Your police chief said that one of the most unpredictable and dangerous encounters that police officers have is traffic stops. I don't want my police officers putting themselves in danger in order to increase operational security for ICE. Council has been evasive on whether or not this actually counts as collaboration. And to tell you the truth, I don't care. At the end of the day, a Cleveland Heights police officer aided ICE in operational security and allowing them to do their job more safely. If that doesn't count as collaboration, I don't know what does, and I don't care. I don't want. Also, I have.
That's it.
No, I also have.
No, there's not
I also have language for you guys that I'm going to pass out. No, I am passing out this legislation.
Well, okay, but you don't have to keep talking. Go ahead.
I wasn't allowed to finish, truthfully.
Mr. President.
Yeah, go ahead.
If I could, I just want to clarify for the public that, again, our police department did not cooperate with any federal agencies on that day in question. My directive has been and continues to be to the department that we should do nothing more than what is legally required. And most importantly, there were quotes that were read this evening. Our police department was not a part of any of those things that were read this evening. There were audio clips that were shared. I can't control something that federal agents are saying between themselves in another city. All that I can do is control our own department, and with regard to those quotes, our officers were not involved with that.
Thank you, Mayor. No. You're done. Go ahead.
Walter Thiem.
Hi, Walter Thiem from Lamberton Road in Cleveland Heights. Since I have a very short time, I'm going to read part of what my wife sent me to read her, and then I can get my own thoughts in. It's from my wife. I'm here tonight to ask you to do what you can to keep water in the lower Shaker Lake. A lake, according to the Merriam-Webster Dictionary, has water in it. Please work with the Northeast Ohio Regional Sewer District and the cities of Shaker Heights and Cleveland the best that you can to save this asset. Please also do what you can to protect the healthy trees that surround the lake. The Shaker Lakes are an asset not only to those families fortunate to live alongside the lake, but to residents who walk, run, bike, or drive to it from miles away. The lakes attract a diverse group of people. I often hear several languages being spoken as I run on the trails. I hear Russian, Hebrew, Arabic, and Spanish. I see people from many countries, all drawn to the bridges and the trails along the beautiful lake. So that's as far as I go with hers. These are historic lakes. They're built 200 years ago by the Shakers, and they are a historic site. And then they're historic in how they saved Shaker Heights and Cleveland Heights about 50 years ago. They were also a major factor in how Cleveland Heights and Shaker Heights developed. People build streets and houses and mills and lakes. If we want to put things back how they were historically, we'd have to remove all of that and then introduce beavers, and then we'd have lakes again. And that's that.
Hallie Moore. You are.
I didn't want to be last.
You're the coda.
Everything has been said already. Hello, Council. Thank you. Hallie Moore from South Woodland in Shaker Heights. So everything's really, the main thing is the lakes are an asset, and once we lose them, once we let them go away, they will be no more. and people flock to our cities, to our city, Shaker and Cleveland Heights. I'm sorry, I am nervous. They flock to the peace, the tranquility, there's a great vibe that we have. And if we fill those lakes up with the weeds and the grasses that we see now at Horseshoe Lake, I don't think that's what most people want. I talk to people when I walk around the lakes, the lower lake in particular, and I've asked, oh, do you know what's going on with the lake? They're thinking of, getting rid of the dam, getting rid of the lake, and people are shocked. And a lot of people have talked about the transparency. I just want to say what I see daily as someone who lives on one of the lakes. I see Morgensterns. I know I'm saying that duck wrong. Carp and goldfish, native, not native, from someone's backyard and goldfish bowl. Cormorants, turtles, mink, yes, live mink, swan, mallards. People come and they sit on the benches and they just look and they breathe and they feel. And I feel like the lakes are our lungs in a sense. And to have them be dried up and reworked and little plugs of sticks put in the area where it's not going to feel the same feeling that they give us. It's not just a feeling, it's more. Thank you.
Thank you, Helen. All right. Let me thank you all. Matt, I'm going to give you 2 minutes because I don't want to give more than... Hold on. He asked to speak. So, no. Go ahead, Matt.
Council President, thank you for the time. I just want to address a couple questions.
No, we're not going to do that.
I just want to address a couple observations. Please. One, the comment about 100-year storm events and ODNR's requirement for the probable maximum precipitation, that 24 to 25 inches in a 24-hour period. That is the state's Ohio Administrative Code. That's their statute. That's what ODNR is enforcing there. Just last August in Hudson experienced 7 inches of rainfall in less than a 24-hour period, which was a 1,000-year event. So it is possible that it could happen in this region. That's what the design dam replacement was for at Lower Lake. I also want to address the notion that the consulting parties were not listened to during the public process that's administered by the Army Corps of Engineers. There's a very detailed response document that's provided publicly that lists all those comments that the public provided.
No, please.
That many of those comments were out of scope and not in the purview of the Corps and or SHPO. So we will continue to work through the permitting process and gather all the permits that are necessary to move forward with the construction. We certainly recognize all these comments. We are not for taking out trees. Many of our projects it is necessary to do stream restoration by taking out some trees, but we are committed to reestablishing the ecological uplift, and that's one of the main reasons that we're receiving these federal and state permits is because of the ecological uplift that these natural resources will receive. I just want to remind council, as I stated before, this is a public safety issue that is before two public bodies, the cities of Cleveland Heights and Shaker Heights. And the sewer district was invited to the discussion under the Regional Stormwater Management Program to bring resources to bear to help the cities solve this issue.
Thank you. I was just about to praise everybody for the behavior and the intelligent comments that we had. I'm sorry that the last few minutes were not quite up to that standard, but again, thank you all for coming. Any old business? Old business? Any new business? All right, no new business. Any council comments? All right, in that case, oh yeah, go ahead.
I have comments.
Yeah, not stopping.
I just want to thank the administration for its efforts on the state capital budget. Many of us sent in emails to tens and tens and tens of state legislators supporting our application for $1 million for the Cumberland pool. And I wanted to thank the administration for taking the initiative to get this started. right out of the gate. I think that's an excellent first step. I wanted to also touch on the Shaker Lakes for my own thoughts on this. If anyone has emailed me since March 31st, I have not responded because it's been Passover and I've been trying to spend time with my family and also offline for religious reasons. I look forward to responding to those emails after. But my understanding from being on the Planning Commission when we were presented the Horseshoe Lake, which I think was at least 1, if not 2 or 3 years ago, is even when it came to the Planning Commission, because of the way our zoning code is written, it was presented as a presentation and it was the end of the planning process. And we were presented at the final result of that. And I was slightly miffed because I wanted to give input and I had missed some of the community engagement sessions. But what it did say, what that experience and what the Kane Park Stramp process demonstrated to me is that we have a hole in our zoning code, which is that we don't have, other than council, another public body that will recommend approval or disapproval of projects, substantial changes to our parks. That is a piece of legislation that I'm working on with our planning staff right now. And why I think that's beneficial is that you can come to council meetings and you can speak, of course, but the Planning Commission has the power also, it's an appointed body of experts that has the power to work with the applicant to change or suggest changes and recommend approval or disapproval to council. And when cases come to the Planning Commission, I'm going to continue on for another minute or so. When cases come to the Planning Commission, they require proximate notice to neighbors, and they also allow for public comment according to the chair. So that,
Council,
yeah,
we can't.
that's fine. So I'm just finishing. So that's something that I'm working on. And I think that in addition, that the main concern for me on the parks is public safety. And I look forward to hearing from the lawyer that the city's retained as to his thoughts and his expert recommendations on the issue. So thank you.
Thank you. Councilman Posh, do you want to say anything about those treats that are on the, I mean, I'm not.
Yeah, fill your pockets with cupcakes, please. I mean, I think after all this, we need a little bit of sugar.
Yeah, all right. Yes. Oh, yeah. So again, thank you all for coming. We're actually not going to adjourn, but go into executive session. I don't have a report. I think we.
All right. In that case, I'd like to make a motion that we go into executive session to consider confidential information related to the marketing plans, specific business strategy, production techniques, trade secrets, or personal financial statements of an applicant for economic development assistance, or to negotiations with other political subdivisions respecting requests for economic development assistance as necessary to protect the interests of the applicant or the possible investment or expenditure of public funds to be made in connection with the economic development project, and also to discuss with an attorney for the public body claims or disputes involving the public body that are the subject of pending court action or in the judgment of such attorney appear likely to be the subject of a future court action or claim.
Second.
Any discussion? All right, Addie, would you call the roll, please?
Cobb.
Aye.
Larson.
Aye.
Posh.
Yes.
DeWitt Foy.
Yes.
Cohen.
Aye.
Kuda.
Aye.
Stone.
Aye.
Okay, I'm adjourning this meeting at 10:49. Our next meeting is April 20th. This meeting is adjourned.